Heyo everybody, Haku here with my review for Spy Family Part 1, and I have always said Spy X Family, but I think it should just be Spy Family, so I'm gonna stop saying Spy X Family and just say Spy Family. So yeah, let's talk about Part 1. I've been wanting to do this for a bit of a while. Now I'm going through and reviewing all these anime that I've watched this year. I really loved it. I can't wait to finish this review so that I can go watch Part 2, which is airing right now. I do need to say something really quick before I get into the way that I'm going to review this, which I guess I'm going to review it by first talking about my general thoughts, on the story, the visuals, the music, the production quality, etc., direction. You get my point. Then after I do that, I'll give a little break if you don't want information on what actually happens in the series. Then after that little break, we're going to talk in depth about it. I don't have super in-depth notes for this one, but we're going to talk in depth about it. We're just going to sit back, have a discussion about a really good, really fun anime. Now, this is a really good, really fun anime, but the thing I wanted to say first is if you're one of those people who wants to just be a complete, pardon my French, a complete piece of shit, a horrible, disgusting excuse for a human being over fictional content, get the fuck out. You're shown the door. I don't want you here. Don't need you here. Definitely don't want you here. Polluting my channel, polluting my comment section. People like this don't get enough pushback from fans of anything, but especially fans of anime, who it just feels like almost every community's been completely polluted by them now. They're completely awful people, some of the worst people on the planet, and unless they are actual literal Puritans not consuming any fictional content themselves, they are essentially always hypocrites, every single time. And it's one of those things where Spy X Family, I called it that again, where Spy Family is the most bland, normal, inoffensive anime for people to be getting, or for people to be attempting to cancel people over on the weekly. Like, it is just the most normal anime. It's really, oh, this tap water's too spicy energy. This plain white bread's too spicy energy. Yeah, this is, the way I'm tying it in here is that, yeah, this is the most bland, normal, inoffensive anime to just be complete assholes about, but of course that's what happens with popular anime these days, it seems. But that's also the series' probably greatest strength. Its greatest strength is that it has such broad appeal. If you like action stuff, if you like more romantic stuff, if you just like slice of life stuff, comedies, it has such a broad appeal. No matter what kind of series you like, you're probably going to like Spy Family. Another thing I saw people trying to cancel the author about was when he said, you know, and it was kind of translated badly, but to paraphrase, these aren't the type of characters or the type of story I usually draw or write, but the sort of person who made the series was like, I think I need to make a series that has a wider, more mass appeal, and made Spy Family. And people were trying to cancel him, saying, oh, so he doesn't care about the characters at all. And it's like, no, that's not what he said. It's that it's not what they normally do, but they just were like, what I normally do doesn't necessarily maybe get the readers that I need. Let me make something with the most broad appeal that I can write. And that's straight up what Spy Family is good at. It is good at having an extremely broad appeal. If you like stuff with a bit of drama, you like stuff with a bit of action, you like stuff with a bit of comfiness, a bit of feels. It hits everything just a little bit. It hits just enough of every point that I feel like anyone could like it. I feel like anyone could like Spy Family. I think it's either that as its high point, or for the anime, the production quality. The production quality is insane. The visuals are really nuts. They are so good. The music to me wasn't memorable. I don't really remember how good the music was. Even after going back, watching a couple times, watching people's reactions to it, writing these notes for this review, the music just wasn't memorable. I don't remember it, but I think it was probably pretty good. The direction to me is divisive. There were so many times where I'm like, whoa, this direction is insanely good. And so many times where I'm like, I'm not feeling this direction. Most emblematic of it is the opening. I think the opening's a disaster, personally. The music, the song is fine. This is, again, I am getting a little bit divisive myself here by saying that I didn't think the opening was good. The song's whatever. Song's fine. I'm not a huge official Hige Dandism guy, so that could be why. I don't think the song was bad or anything. It's catchy enough. The issue with me is the direction. I think they had 3 different styles going on that if they stuck with any one of them, it would have been great. We had this sort of basic, sketchy kind of style going on, this super hyper stylized stuff that I thought was really good. And if the whole opening was like that, it would have been good. We had this cool, like, sort of artsy color palette, really smooth style going on for some of the shots in the opening that I was like, if they stuck with that, that would have been so good. The opening would have been so good. And they had this really sort of, not realistic as in real world realistic, but realistic as in on animation for what the anime itself looks like on character model and everything. Animation that was, again, because the series has really good animation, it was really, really good for those sequences in the opening. And I'm like, if we stuck with that, it would be really, really good. Or another thing, if you wanted to do all three of those, the direction could have had it flow into each other as if the sort of sketchy, more childish, more artsy stuff was like sort of indicative of Anya and her character, or the sort of really smooth, minimalist stuff was like Yor and her character, or the really sort of hyper, sort of on model, really well animated stuff, the action shots were indicative of Lloyd and his character. And you could have directed it so that it was more clear and more stable, that it was showing sort of visuals that were sort of supposed to make you think of the 3 main characters, but they just didn't do that very well. It just randomly cuts between the art styles, and it's just a sloppy, thrown together mess. The opening is just really they're good-looking individual visual shots if you just look at each shot individually, but when you put them together, they're just cobbled together in the most ugly fashion. It is it's so messily directed that I'm like, how can so much other stuff be so well directed, but the opening is like such a disaster? And the opposite of the opening is the ending. I think the ending's an all-time great. You want to ask me best anime endings of all time? I might throw Spy Family in there. This is a good ending. This is a really great ending. The ending is all-timer level good. I think that the characters were great, to sort of move away from that. And more into story-ish stuff, I think the characters were really, really great. We didn't really have enough time to develop them yet, but that's because this is a slow burn series. It's a long-running series. You know, the manga's pretty long by now. So it's like, we're just not that far into it yet. We're going to get to know them more and more. They're already good characters, but we're going to get more and more of that as the series goes on. This is just the beginning. So that's sort of like why you can't like the characters were great, but I have to say, like, they're not incredibly developed yet, and I have to say yet because this is just the beginning. Basic premise, this family, I don't want to spoil anything. I feel like anything you say about the basic premise is like spoilers for the first like 2 episodes. This family, who all have special things about them, all get brought together through circumstances that require them to pretend to be a family in order to get by, and they start going from pretending to be a family to kind of developing into one. I think that is kind of how I would describe it without spoiling anything. I think it is cute and comfy with just enough drama to be exciting and stay on the rails and stay on a specific path. Yeah, I think that it was an incredibly good show. Very, very great with 1 bad episode, and that is going to make people, again, going to be another divisive statement. But we'll get to that. I'm going to talk about the series in depth now and all the different episodes. But before I do that, I'll give you time to leave if you were just looking for my general thoughts, sort of a recommendation. I'll leave you on that before I'll let you go. Before I talk about things in depth. So before I talk about things in depth, let's give a thank you to patrons and channel members. Thank you to chosen regulars, Etchy Zero, Evan Holly, and Remorsefuls, Magical Girl FR Nono, Cherryton Students, also the Storyteller and David Langstaff, and Slayer Candidate SG. Huge thank you to all of you. And now let's talk about Spy Family in detail. So let's talk about episode 1. Episode 1 is our intro to Lloyd, a spy known as Twilight. I guess really known as Twilight isn't the right way to put it. He is the spy Twilight, but he's going under the alias here, Lloyd. We also get to meet Anya, a girl who was in some sort of experiment that we don't get to quite know enough about yet, and it has left her as a telepath. So yeah, it's a really, really good in every single aspect. I think it's an incredible first episode. So much happens. There's so much that goes on. It's gorgeous visually. It's hard to argue that, it might just be the best episode in the series. It's kind of hard to argue that the first episode isn't the best. It's very good in like every single aspect. But that doesn't mean that there aren't a plethora of other great episodes. Either way, we get our Yor intro in episode 2, who is an assassin, and she also kind of needs to fake a normal life so that her brother and other people don't get suspicious of what she's doing. Lloyd needs a wife to join in because he has Operation Strix, which requires him to get close to this sort of a sort of higher up politician, I guess he would be, and the way to do so, because he only shows up to events for his son's school, is to get close to his son. That's why he needed a daughter to get into the school, and in order to get his daughter into the school, he needed a wife as well. So they decide, assassin, spy, they don't know that each other are an assassin or a spy, but they just sort of end up getting together because they need to pretend to be a family. And that brings us into probably, again, one of the greatest strengths of the story part of the series. I talked about the production quality before, but as far as the story goes, one of my favorite things is how Anya has to hide from the other two that she's a telepath. Yor has to hide from the other two that she's an assassin. Lloyd has to hide from the other two that he's a spy. Do I think that the other two would really care that much if they told the truth? Not really, but it's so much fun seeing the different situations they get in where they're each having to hide their identities, not from the world, but from each other. I think it makes for such an interesting dynamic where sometimes you can even forget, oh yeah, Yor doesn't know these things about Anya or Lloyd. And same for the rest of the characters except Anya because she can read minds. But it's great how these characters are all hiding these things from each other. And Anya, of course, being able to read minds really helps to give us as the audience a look into more of what the characters are thinking than just seeing things from their perspective, which we also do. Episode 3 is a great episode. It's one of the most slice of life-y, probably. They're prepping for the interview. It's very, very good. Episode 4 is another argument for best episode in the series. The interview is great, and that's most of the second half. I love Henry, a new character we get introduced to. But the first half, just going to the interview room, is so funny, and it does so much good character work. Like, it's brilliant. And that's something else you can say about Spy Family, is that it's a very funny comedy, and it also does really good character work. Plus, again, looking good visually, if that's what you care about, having some good action and drama, just solid all around. Then we get to the one bad episode, episode 5, and I'm going to try to convince you that I'm right, and it is a bad episode. So it flexes the production quality. Visually, it might be the best looking episode visually. It looks good, but it jumps the shark and makes literally no sense. And while jumping the shark and making no sense, it doesn't even do any good character work. The characters don't develop from episode 5. In hindsight, I didn't even think this episode was bad. I enjoyed it less than the other episodes, but going back to take notes and make this review, I was like, wait, this episode's bad. It completely flies in the face of so much of the drama of the series and so much of what other episodes try to tell us. Other episodes try to tell us they need to hide. People can't find out what they're doing, yet they rent out this entire castle and have this big thing going on with like a bunch of random spies. The rest of the series tries to tell us that there's a shortage on spies and that it's dangerous because spies keep getting arrested. There are spy hunts going on. Yet we have a bunch of these random nobodies who can just show up at a moment's notice. We get told throughout the rest of the series that they don't have an unlimited budget, and there are some budget issues and some things that they might struggle with, and yet again, they have the money to do all of this stuff. We're told for all of the rest of the series that there's such a shortage of spies that Lloyd has to take on these extra missions, and he doesn't even get any time to spend with his family because he's so overloaded. And yet there's enough spies to do this silly stuff and also to just waste time on this, to waste the time, to waste the money. Something that, again, all of the rest of the series is telling us is part of the drama. That's part of the conflict. A major part of the series is conflict, and so many of these episodes, this episode, episode 5, flies directly in the face of them. It tries to gaslight us into being like, oh yeah, none of those problems matter. And if you want to say, oh yeah, it's just silly comedy, the issue is that it's not good silly comedy. There are other episodes that do silly comedy without breaking the plot of Spy Family, but episode 5 breaks the plot. If you remove episode 5, just go straight from episode 4 to episode 6, you don't have that problem because the rest of it's consistent. The rest of it is, we don't have budget for this. The rest of this is, we don't have the manpower for this. The rest of this is, you don't have the time for this. And yet, episode 5 just completely flies in the face of all of that for no reason. Like I said, I'd forgive it if it had good character development. It doesn't. If it meant something for the plot, I mean, I guess that would kind of be bad because you're kind of forgetting all of your conflicts in order to progress the plot, but it doesn't progress the plot at all. You can skip episode 5. You can go episode 4 to episode 6, completely skip it. You don't lose anything. It's bad. In hindsight, it is a bad episode. It flies in the face of every other episode. So while it looks visually gorgeous, like I said, visually, either it or episode 1's probably the best looking, but I'd say episode 5 probably. But as good as it looks, it's just bad story-wise. Episode 6 introduces us to the concept of Stella Stars, which Anya is going to need to collect, and to Nitrous Bolts, which she is going to need to try to stop herself from collecting. We have this really great Yor and Anya shopping trip, and the drama there is incredibly good. I love the character work. And an intro to Damien and Becky and to the school. All of it's really funny. We get to have good moments with Yor's character, with Anya's character, with Lloyd's character. All of them are handled really, really well. Episode 7, there's great character work for Lloyd, learning that he's overpressuring Anya and that he needs to slow down and ease off and do things differently because the way he's doing things just isn't working. It's not right. We also have some fun school stuff that goes on for episode 7, and the intro kind of to Yuri, we kind of like, it's hard to say intro because we were already introduced to Yuri, Yor's brother, as a concept, but we also don't get his like full introduction until the next episode. So I was going to say like our first hints at him. I guess it's the first time we see him visually if you're not counting the opening and ending. But it wasn't the first time he was mentioned or brought up. So it's kind of weird, but we get some Yuri stuff. Episode 8's the real Yuri intro, though. It was a fun episode, a really funny episode of just Yuri and Yor and Lloyd interacting. It ends on a cliffhanger. They couldn't fit it all into one episode. The only thing is, I wish Anya was there. I wish we got to see Yuri and Anya interacting. I really... Even for part 1, maybe we'll get it in part 2, I really wanted Yuri and Anya interacting. I wanted to see what that would be like. Yeah, episode 9 finishes episode 8 and then leads us into some great Yor and Lloyd development where we're developing her with her insecurities over being a wife because, again, she thinks that Lloyd and Anya are just a normal family. Her insecurities over her place in the family. And from Lloyd's side of things, him sort of being suspicious of Yor, him not trusting her, and him learning that, no, she's a good person and he should trust her more. It was good development for both of them, really. Episode 10 is, again, what episode 5 wishes it was. It was a hilarious dodgeball episode. It was incredibly funny. It was wacky comedy. It was great production value, and it doesn't drop the story whatsoever. The story stays perfectly intact. And not only does it stay intact, it develops the side characters at the school. It develops Anya and Becky and Damien and his friends, whose names I forget and don't really care about, and a little bit of Henry, I guess. Like, it's just a really good episode. Episode 11, Anya earns her first Stella for saving a drowning patient at a hospital. Damien defends her at school. Again, we're just getting a bit more plot progression stuff. And after consulting for Becky, she asks her parents for a dog. They agree, and we get a hint at the dog showing up, but we don't see him next episode. That episode was kind of just progressing the plot in a lot of ways. We need to progress this a little. We need to progress this a little. So it was mostly that stuff. And then the finale for part 1, episode 12. Lloyd has to take on a bunch of extra missions because they're just so short-staffed and stuff. And going back, taking notes for episode 12, seeing episode 12 again, I'm just like, wow, episode 5 sucks. Episode 5 just flies in the face of all of this. So yeah, episode 12 is great. It leads to them going on an aquarium trip to prove that they're a real happy family. I don't know. I think this episode, again, is maybe one of the best because it's such a perfect combination of the spy stuff and the family stuff. The family stuff is so fun and funny and well written, and the drama makes you think, their neighbors are jerks, and makes you cheer for them. And the spy stuff is, again, fun and funny and exciting. And it's like you have like Anya and the Penguins and Lloyd, and it's really fun. It's a really, really fun episode. So, yeah, I would suppose that's it for my Spy Family review. I'm excited to see part 2. Now I can go watch part 2 now that I finished this. I mentioned it in my other reviews, but I have a ton of other anime reviews coming. But before I get into all those other anime reviews, I gotta do some more manga stuff, gotta do some more manhwa webtoon stuff. Need to get back to light novels eventually. But yeah, tons of videos coming. Thank you so much for watching. Like if you did like this video, and comment down there to tell me what you thought of my thoughts. What were your own thoughts? I love discussing things with you all. Subscribe for more anime, much more of that stuff on the channel that I just mentioned all of. Follow on Twitter if you want to. If you want a link to the Discord server, just ask and I can give you a link to it. And then we can all talk on Discord or Twitter, wherever. I love talking to you all wherever. We can talk here in the comments, wherever you want to. If you want to help support the channel, to try to help me to continue to make videos, it is patreon.com/Haku of the Tubes, or link will be in the description, or you can just become a channel member by hitting join down below. Either one, both are fine, both are great. Both get a shout out that's at the end of each video, but I put it in the middle for these anime reviews just to give me something to delineate the start from the finish. But yeah, that was a very loud swallow, gulp, sorry. Yeah, thank you so much for the people who are already members and patrons. I already gave them individual shout-outs. And thank you to all of you for watching. It was really, really, really fun to get to make this video. I hope you enjoyed it. I had some more divisive takes, I think, than most, because while I think it's a great series with a very wide appeal, there were some things about it that I didn't think were the best, sure. Yeah. Either way, that's it. Thank you so much again for watching, and I'll see you all next time.